Hi everyone, today we're making a delicious crab masala. This is deliciously cooked crab in a curry sauce. The curry cooks down and coats the crab perfectly. It's nice and spicy and it's really lip-smacking delicious. You have to give it a try. It's a really different way of cooking crab. So I went down to the market and I saw these live mud crabs. They were really nice and fresh, and of course they're live, and they were nice and active. Make sure when you buy crabs that they're nice and active, and make sure that they're tied down, otherwise they can really take off your finger, so be careful that the claws are tied with this. So I bought back these two large mud crabs, and the most humane way to prepare crab is to place them in the freezer to desensitize them, to immobilize them. It sets them off into a sleep. This is the most humane way to cook crab. I know we can put the crabs directly into boiling water, but I really don't like this method, and besides I like to marinate the crab for a while. So this is the only method that is suitable for me. You want to place the crabs in the freezer for 45 minutes to 1 hour, depending on the size. It might take about up to an hour. No more than this. We don't want to freeze the flesh. So after about an hour, the crab is ready. A couple of times before when I've done this, the crab was still moving, so I tend not to cut off the plastic string, just for safety. And I'm going to start to show you how to prepare and clean the crab. Now we flip it over, and here you can see the tail flap. It's a narrow size, that means it's a male crab. So you want to start by flipping open the tail flap. So we can take off the tail flap. I'm just going to cut that string there and start by lifting under the tail flap. Sometimes the tail flap comes off, you can just discard it, and then we're going to work from the back and lift off the head. So we've lifted off the head. Just give it a twist so that some of that jelly-like stuff comes off with it. Now some people like to eat the jelly-like stuff inside the head. I personally just discard it. And sometimes the head shell is used for decoration purposes, as a garnish, or when you're presenting the crab. This is optional. You can just steam it along or when you're cooking it after cleaning and rinsing it really well. But for this crab masala, we're not using it. Now continue to cut off the little sharp pieces near the mouthpiece. You just cut them all off and discard that. And then if you find this spongy gray, the gills, now you really need to remove it. Just gather it with your fingers like this on both sides and just pinch it off so that it's completely removed. Keeping those gills, they're not edible, and they also add a bitter taste, so you really want to get rid of all that and get rid of any more sharp bits that might be protruding. So none of this is edible, so we're just going to cut it off. Now this is the center. I like to clean out the center. We'll clean it out more as we rinse the crabs later. Just cutting off the remainder of that string. And cutting off the remaining sharp bits that are not edible. Another piece over here, get rid of that. So this is quite a good size mud crab, and mud crabs are really delicious. I'm going to continue to clean out the center. I'm just going to give it a good rinse to remove anything from the center. And now we can get started on our next crab. So you see here we have nice large size claws, and it looks really healthy. You really need to pay attention to that when you're buying crab. Just pick it up. It should feel heavy for its size. So the reason we lift the head shell off from behind is because in the front it's sharp and you'll hurt your fingers if you try to lift it from the front side. That is why we're lifting the head shell up from behind. And again, we're repeating just as before. Remove all that jelly-like substance along with the head. Just give it a twist to remove it neatly. Cut off all those sharp bits and inedible parts from the mouthpiece and the front portion. Remove the gray spongy gills on both sides. Remove the center portion. You can give it a rinse later to clean it out completely. Just getting rid of all that string. So you see here, both our beautiful mud crabs have been cleaned. Now we can just rinse them under running water to remove all the center, any little bits and pieces and the innards from the center. So now I've rinsed and really cleaned off my crabs. Just a couple of rinses. You don't need to put it in water. And they're nice and clean, and we can start to portion the crab. So for this, we're going to just cut it straight through the center. You can see I have really nice flesh here. When you cut it, if you find these little bits left that we should have taken off before, you can just twist it off. A little bit more here as well. So now we've cut it through the center. We're going to remove the claws. Just twist and remove. And here we see the leg portions. Just at the very end of the leg, that little joint section, you want to twist them off as well. This helps the flavor of the masalas to penetrate into these legs. Just pinch off those 3 there. And then we can divide this into 2 portions, like this. And for the claw, you want to just give it a nice bang with your cleaver, just to crack it. You don't want to crack it too much so there's tiny bits of shell, but you do want to just crack it so that the masala again penetrates well into that flesh. The flesh in the claw tastes really delicious, as does the rest of the crab. But you want to make sure that all the flavors in your masala really penetrate deeply. So you can twist the claw into 2 pieces as well, and we're just going to repeat with the next side the same way. Remove that small joint portion, the end of the legs, and cut through the center to make these 2 smaller portions. Just crack the claws. And divide that into 2 as well. And we're just going to do the same thing with the next crab. like this, we have cleaned and portioned our crab pieces. We're just going to add this to a bowl, and now we can marinate it. For this, you're going to need shallots, a half a cup of sliced shallots. And next we're going to add 4 heaped tablespoons of ginger garlic paste. That's equal proportions of ginger and garlic that has been ground together to a paste without adding water. 2 sprigs of fresh curry leaves. And let's add some spices for our spicy crab masala. We're adding 3 tablespoons of mild chili powder. I'm using Kashmiri red chili powder here. If you're using a hotter chili powder, you might want to reduce the quantity. We're also adding 1 teaspoon of turmeric powder and 2 tablespoons of coriander powder. Add salt to taste here. So for these 2 large mud crabs, I'm just adding a little less than a teaspoon here. So the weight after I've cleaned and removed the shell and cut the crabs is about 7 to 750 grams. Now we're just going to marinate this. Rub all the ingredients really well into the crab carefully, and then we're going to set this aside covered for 1 hour. We don't want to leave this more than 1 hour because, as I said earlier, it's always best to cook the crab quickly. Now, as the crab is set aside to marinate, we're going to pour some hot boiled water over 2 pieces of fish tamarind. Fish tamarind is used mainly in seafood dishes. If you can't get your hands on fish tamarind, you could substitute this with regular tamarind. Now, after 1 hour, we're going to start cooking our crab. Just add this to a clay pot or an earthen pot. This is the best, and it gives the best flavor, and it really cooks the crab the best way. So we're just going to rinse out the bowl in which the crab was marinated so that we don't lose any of that spice mix. And we're just going to pour enough water to just have your crab submerged in water. You don't want to add too much water because this has to cook down. And we're also going to add the fish tamarind here that was soaked in water. It's nice and soft by now. Fish tamarind is available in many Indian stores. You can look for it. It's actually the fruit that has been dried and smoked. So it has a nice earthy, smoky flavor. It's different from regular tamarind, but if you can't find it, you can substitute this with 2 tablespoons of tamarind pulp. So now we're just going to let this come to a boil. Now as it came to a boil, I'm going to reduce the flame to the lowest heat, and we're going to cook this on a low simmer for about 15 minutes. Just let it simmer away slowly, let it do its own thing for those 15 minutes, and I assure you, the aroma that fills your home while you're cooking this crab is just, it's wonderful. I'm sure your neighbors will be knocking on your door, wondering what's cooking and asking to be invited. Don't forget to move around your crab pieces once in a while, just occasionally stirring from the bottom, and keep this on the lowest heat. This is why we are cooking in a clay pot, because you don't want any of this masala to get scorched onto the bottom. It's much better than using any other type of non-stick pot, but if you can't find one, I'd recommend a good strong non-stick pot instead. And once the crab has simmered away around 15 minutes in this delicious masala, you want to check for salt one last time. You're unlikely to need any more salt if you add the amount I mentioned, just less than a teaspoon of salt in the beginning. But you want to check anyway, and you will also want to add a pinch of sugar. That helps to really balance out the flavors. And once all that liquid has cooked down and it looks like this, quite a thick gravy surrounding the crab, at this point you want to add 1 chopped tomato. If you feel the masala is getting a bit too dry and sticking to the bottom of the pot, you can add a splash of water, but not too much. And now you just want to cook a little while longer till that tomato is cooked down and softened till it's mashable. And at the very end, you're going to add 3 spoons of coconut oil. Now this adds a really different layer of flavor, and it brings together all those spices, and all the heat and the flavors just melt well together once you've added that coconut oil at the end. Now just give this a stir and bring it back to a simmer once more. Make sure the tomatoes have softened properly, and your crab masala is done. You can have this with steamed rice. It's absolutely delicious. It's nice and spicy and full of flavor. So share this with as many people as possible. They will love it. It's a delicious way to enjoy crab. We hope you try this recipe, and do let me know if you tried it. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time. Bye.